Hey, it's Sammy and Donna.
Hello.
It is National Diabetes Awareness Day. Woo!
Yes,
Um,
indeed it
yeah, I know it's kind of crazy. I was like waiting for this day to come, and here it is. I mean, obviously, I
is.
wait every year, but you know what I mean. Now it's here.
I'm really glad they have a day for this. This is really nice. I think it's definitely needed to get that awareness out there because boy, there are a lot of people out there that just have like all types of misconceptions over diabetes, and we really kind of need to like make records straight and advise and teach, I think, in my
Yes,
opinion.
yes. Do you want to share, Donna, what today's episode is going to be about?
So today's episode is going to be about how Sammy and I spread our diabetes awareness. I specifically how I spread it with along family members, which is quite interesting, and how I also I spread it, in social media and stuff like that, but mainly family members, friends, neighbors. That's how I do it. So I'll talk about that.
Great. Yeah, we're just going to talk about how you can bring awareness with diabetes, and there's so many different ways, but I think finding what works for you and how you can translate to people how they can better support you is so important, and something we aren't always aware of. So, Donna, do you want to share first how you spread it with your family?
Sure.
Okay.
So the old, I'm the only person in my family who has it at this time of my lifetime. Before I was diagnosed, I mean, I did have a grandfather and an aunt and all that from years past. But at the modern era, it's only just me. And I have heard the lovely things like my mother-in-law, nice woman. However, first thing she said, people who get type 2 diabetes deserve it. They're asking for it. I almost jumped off a bridge at that point, but I was like, no,
I
that's
would have
not
been
true.
like, what the frick?
I kind of was. I remember that happened, and I walked in another room and bawled because I was like, I didn't have the strength at that time to even explain or do any type of like helping myself in
Yeah,
any
no.
way. I just didn't have it. I didn't have the strength. I had just been done. Just look at you. You deserve it. Anybody with type 2 deserves it. So I try. Nowadays, I try to teach her. This is not a disease that I brought upon myself. There's a lot of factors that come
Yes.
involved. There
Oh,
is the
a lot.
genetic, right? Yes, being 339 pounds with an eating disorder, sure. That affected, yeah, that contributed. Sure, of course it did. So did genetics. Of course it did.
Totally.
Of course. But I'm not gonna put the guilt on myself on top of everything else and say, if you did not eat that cheesecake, you'd be fine. I'm not going to do that. And that was her mindset. So I am teaching her. I'm also teaching other people in my family who are a little ignorant that the same thing, that this isn't contagious. Yeah, there was another one. I went over to a niece's house, and she said to me, first thing she said was, is there anything here you can eat? I'm like, well, basically, no, there isn't. But that's okay. Don't worry about it. And she says, is it contagious? Because am I going to get it? Because I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, so it's contagious. Yeah, that's brutal. That's just like, come on. How old is she?
She's 10 years younger than me.
I thought you
Yeah,
said 10
yeah,
years old. I was like, that makes sense.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, it makes no sense. So there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of misinformation. A lot of people just don't understand. So in my social media, and people, I try to tell them this, it's not your fault. Yeah, there's contributing factors, but there's so many contributing factors. You don't have to be 339 pounds. You could be a stick. I've seen a girl, I know a girl who had, I mean, literally the girl was a gymnast. I think she was a gymnast at one time. She was so active. She's so slim, and meanwhile she's going blind with type
Yeah.
2. It's like, so that's
Yeah.
kind of my thought.
No, there's so many different things. And I think that's what people don't realize and are a little ignorant, which is just brutal to
Yeah.
you're like, oh my gosh. But I think, yeah, I think for me, at least trying to tell people like, no, actually my insulin does this, like correcting. I don't mean to, but if I find it the most beneficial to be like, oh, so actually you said it reverse. Insulin brings down blood sugar, glucose raises. Cause they'll be like, oh, so when you take insulin, your blood sugar goes up. I'm like, no. I'm like, unless I'm resistant, then no. But
Right.
yeah, but I think it's definitely interesting. So hearing those things are, yeah. And you said you share with like neighbors too?
Yes, I do. Like, for instance, there's this one of my neighbors, her daughter is pre-diabetic and she just turned 21. So,
Okay.
you know, yeah. So now her lifestyle is not great. And she is overweight. She does drink the alcohol. She does smoke. But so again, here are all these contributing factors. But you got to look. Her mom, not a healthy woman. A lot of DNA in this family about all all types of illness, all types of autoimmune, all types of cardiovascular. So it's a genetic thing, and it's an environmental thing. And when because she said to me, got to get this weight off her. We've got to get this weight off her. I'm like, well, yeah, yes, but remember, it could turn into type 2 because she doesn't have, because there's other factors to it. Really? I didn't know that. I thought it was just that if you just were really heavy, you got it. And I'm like, no, that's not it. So yeah, I
Yeah.
try to help people there too.
People are ignorant, you know?
It's the only, it's the only word I can use. I
Yeah.
try to be nice. I try to be, you try, but ignorance. Yeah. So thank goodness for World Diabetes Day today, because at least we can educate, or we have a moment that we can educate that
Yes.
this isn't what it's about, and I feel, especially with type 1. Now there's a whole other thing. I mean, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. The fact that you have to become an organ. I mean, you're an organ. And you're
Literally.
you're doing the work of an organ. I mean, the stress. I cannot imagine the stress that this would cause me. I truly don't think I'd survive it. And I
Survive
think a
type one?
person with type 1, I don't think I could survive type 1
You
mentally.
could.
No, I don't think so.
You'd
That's why
surprise
I say
yourself.
you're so strong. People with type 1 are probably the most strongest when it comes to their tenacity, because look what they have to go through on a daily basis. I mean,
It's definitely, I think, like I think what's hard about type 1, and this is what I want people that like understand sometimes, is they don't, I think once your friends are like, oh, they have type 1, like they've had it for so long now, that doesn't just mean like the mental side effects go away. Like they'll be like, oh, like they know how to deal with it. Like, what's wrong, Samantha? Why do you look sad? I'm like, I don't look sad. My blood sugars are 500. What do you mean? I'm like, but so I think that's what's tricky. And I think that's why for me, at least, like all my friends are pretty well educated. Like they all are very aware of it, what it includes if I'm not feeling well. But I have had, who was it? Somebody said something to me that I was like, did they really just say that? It's gonna drive me crazy, but they said it like, oh, well, that's classic. Like, oh, you can't eat this, right? And I'm like, well, no, I eat like fruit and high carbohydrates actually. And they're like, oh, wait, but my uncle does, he eats low carb. I'm like, well, I eat the high carb way and I'm plant-based, so it's different. Thank you.
That's the other thing too that I've noticed with other people with, with type. I'm going to go with type 2 because it's the only thing I can really relate to.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm strict. I'm just who I am. But like I'm strict in very regimented on the food that I do eat. However, I know other people who would type 2 and they're like, I can eat that. You can't eat that. What do you mean you can't eat that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I'm different. We're all different. We
Yeah,
all have
everybody's
different.
diabetes management looks different. Not a bad thing. Like,
No,
so I think that's just what's sometimes like tough is I don't think people recognize like my diabetes is different than your diabetes. Like, and it's never going to be the same.
no. And you can
You know?
give general information, of course. You can
Yes.
just say, try the best you can to eat the whole food, not the processed. Try
Yeah.
your very best to kind of keep your carb content under control. Do a little swap, is sugar good for anybody? No, it's not. So you can get general, but I can't eat grain. You can.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can't eat grain? It's like, and then they fight you on it, and it's like, oh, this is it's what it is. I mean,
And
I
like,
can't eat fruit. You can eat fruit.
yeah.
Everybody's different.
Yeah. And I
It's
think that's what's like tough for me because I'm like, it's everybody's just different. Everybody needs to be aware of that. Um, I think too with like diabetes awareness, it's so important because even if you know somebody who's like diabetic and they have like a diabetes emergency, they need to know like what to do. Not like, oh, I'm gonna give them insulin because you might just make them die. Quite literally. Like, and I think people don't really recognize that. Like they don't think about that. And I actually met with um one of my friends I met, her name's Bella, but she was telling a story and she was like, I was drunk one night and one of my guy friends gave me insulin and I didn't need insulin. And she's like, and he gave her the long acting insulin instead of her short acting and gave her like 10 units. And she had to go to the hospital. But I was saying to myself, like, poor kid was trying to help, but in turn, it wasn't helping. And like he had no idea, but how was he supposed to know? But it's like things like that if we were educated, we wouldn't have to worry about that.
Right. Yes, 100%.
You know?
Yes, and also things like well, let's be honest. Let's be honest. I mean, the COVID situation has put a lot of fear in people with a chronic illness. But here's the interesting thing about it. So I was diagnosed in 2018. COVID started in 2020, and the first thing I thought of was, it's going to put you in a coma. Better not get it. You better not get it. And I got it, and it did absolutely nothing to my blood sugar. Nothing. Now that's so weird. However, other people, like
Me.
300 for you, let's go to the hospital. There's just so many misconceptions. There's so many generalizations. There's so much fear. There's so
Yeah.
much under uncertainty. And this is why we need to make people aware that it's not an all or nothing disease. It's different. It varies. It's varying degrees. It's not black and white, that is for sure. It's just not.
No.
I've never, like in your case, I have never heard in my life of a type 1 who's also insulin resistant. I've
Yeah.
never heard of that in my life.
Oh, me. Me. I'm like, that's always me. I want to answer some of the questions right now because I know some
Yeah.
people have questions, but
Yeah.
Susan, I saw that you asked, what do I always carry with me for diabetes management? Do you have any ways to streamline what you carry? So I carry my backup meter with me, extra needles, of course, my flex pens, glucose tablets, water, and like sometimes a snack, but usually that's kind of it. I can do a video on what I take with me, like what's inside my diabetes bag. As far as how do I streamline the amount of time diabetes management takes, I would say I do everything I need to do necessary, like that's necessary, and then I set it aside. And if my numbers are high and I already gave insulin, I'm not going to just sit there and stare at it because that's not going to do me any good. So I'll like go do something else. And I'd say it didn't take me that long to get into a routine, honestly, that worked well with other activities. Like, because to be honest, I don't think there is a routine. Like, I go on a dance class and I might go to 300 and well, then we adjust as needed. But there's no like way I have that I'm like, okay, this is going to prevent it. Like sometimes, but my body changes so much too. So figuring that out is just honestly in the spur of the moment. Yeah, everything's very spur of the moment. I'm sure you can
That
agree.
is. Mhm.
Yeah.
What about, Raina Jolly? She asked you about,
What?
how do you
Okay.
get out of slumps?
So I've been in a slump because I've had COVID, which sucks. But I think sometimes beating a slump, like there's a point that you have to stop feeling sorry for yourself. And I'll never understand. Like, I know people are like, that's not a true answer. I'm like, it is a true answer. You need to get up and be like, okay, I can either choose to feel sorry for myself today, or I'm not going to choose to feel sorry for myself today. Like, there's no in between. You either deal with it or you don't. So I think for me, that is something that I am a firm believer that gets you out of the slump. Again, I know people disagree, but I don't see how you can use anything else to get you out of a slump.
See, I answered her, I don't have slumps. It's a non-negotiable. This I just consider it non-negotiable. Do I want to lose my legs? Do I want to lose my eyesight? Do I want to be able to live to see my grandchildren?
Yeah.
Yes, the answer is yes. So if the answer is yes, this is a non-negotiable. I have to work out every day. I have to eat this, eat this, eat this. I have to do my intermittent fasting. I have to do these things. It's non-negotiable, so I don't have slumps. Now, that being said, does it suck sometimes? Do I get sad? Do I get tired? Do I be like, what the heck? Why me? Of course, because
Yeah.
I'm not a robot. But
Yeah.
you got to do what you got to do. I put my big girl pants on. I'm like, let's go, girl. Another day. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. And that's what I think. It's like, that's how I get out of the slump. Or I go on a walk. I don't care. If I'm in a bad mood, I'm like, whatever, put on your shoes and go on a walk. Like get out of it. Because as soon as you start walking, you're gonna get out of the funk. And I think that's something else that's like so important to realize. I also think that sometimes we get in these like, well, if my management's already bad, then who cares? Like right now. And I'm guilty at that sometimes with food, but it's not smart. So like trying to be like, okay, I messed up, I fricked up. Well, I'm going to switch it around right now. And I think that's something that's a big thing. Also, I know Susan, you had a question. When staying in a hotel, how do you manage meals, eat out, bring your own food? I bring fruit because it doesn't go bad. I bring bars just in case. And then otherwise, I do eat out, but I find the minimalist amount of process. So either a baked potato or steamed veggies. And I ask for a side of beans or rice, salt it up, and add some sauce. Like there's things that you can do. So that's what I would say is how I kind of, yeah, control that.
Exactly. And same thing with me with restaurants. I go out, because I always know I can get a protein in a salad.
Yeah.
I never get anxiety over eating out because I know I can do that. But Amanda wants to know real fast. So how do you manage insulin with workouts and preventing lows? That would be for you, Sammy.
I always start at like 220. I mean, people can disagree and be like, that's not great, but I always do because then I have something to burn through.
Yeah.
So that's what I figured has worked for me personally. So
it really would have to be Amanda's where she should start. So she wouldn't have to start at 220.
Yes,
it would be
it's gonna be individual to you. And like that's what people like look at me like, what do you mean? I'm like, that's just how it works for me. I always start higher, but you have to figure out for you how much you burn through.
Okay.
Because you need to see like, okay, if I take and normally when I start at 220, I take like a unit of insulin. So at least it's like 220 with a unit of insulin, but it works. It works for me.
So it's kind of like a buffer, isn't it? Like you kind of have your buffer zone, sort of.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Okay. Yeah. For me, I do.
And that makes sense. Cause like if I'm not on insulin. However, I do know that if I'm going to go for like this weekend, I went for a 4-mile walk. Now, if I know I'm going to go for a 4-mile walk, you bet your bottom dollar, I'm going to make sure I got enough carbs in me and enough protein in me to get me through, because it's been scary. These lows I've been having, and it's scary when you're out of your house and you have a crippling low. And then it's like,
have you been going pretty low?
Yeah. So this has been interesting. Lately, I have been, and it's because I added strength training to my routine. So of course, when you add strength training, your metabolism is going to get even stronger, faster. You're going to burn through the carbs more. Yeah. And so I got to start adjusting my carbs, because now I'm doing the strength training with the same amount of carbs, and I'm down low. I'm going real low a lot. So now I have to start adjusting.
Yes.
I mean, that makes sense. I know. Yeah. And when you talked about the hypo hangover, I never had that before.
Did you have it now?
Yeah. Now I'm getting them.
It's brutal.
They're brutal. The pain
You're
in my
like,
head.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't like them. So
it literally, it takes you for a loop, because you're like, whoa, what's happening?
Yeah. 100% exactly right. So Nick says that's why he walks every day. If he doesn't, his blood sugar goes up. My diabetic nurse took 2 glycoside tablets for me morning and evening. I have to readjust. Yep. You have to readjust. Absolutely. Because things change. Your body changes. You're getting older. Yeah. Things change.
Oh, things totally change, like majorly. And if you don't think that they're going to, surprise.
And you don't know too, diabetes is progressive. So I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years when I'm 65 years old. What's going to happen now? Am I going to have to be on insulin at that point? I don't know. But guess what? If I do, I got to adjust.
Yeah.
That's kind of, you think you got it down, and then you don't got it down. So then something throws you for a loop again. So yeah. So that's that.
But well, guys, it has come to a close. Our time has come, and we have to, say goodbye. But happy National Diabetes Awareness Day. And Donna and I are so stoked that you came and joined us. So yeah.
So make sure you go for a walk, eat your good carbs, drink your water, do a little meditation, write in your journal 3 things you're grateful for. Be grateful that you live to see another day. Be grateful that you lived to see today. And that gets me through. Maybe it'll help you get you through slumps and things like that. Yes. And educate people. If someone says something bad, educate them. Don't be mean, but just say, that's not true. So
agreed. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.